Good morning. This is Scott Jensen, and I'm just going to adjust the camera a little bit. There we go. Hi, Scott Jensen here. It's August 17th. We're about a week away from the State Fair. I wanted to do a Facebook Live on education. In the near future, our campaign is going to be releasing our program for education and what we need to be doing as we go forward. But I think we need to have a conversation about education. So let's start with the fact that we will be releasing over probably the next 2 weeks, our education program. We've released programs on fighting inflation, on energy, on public safety, on personal fitness, and we're going to be releasing one on education. We've released one on agriculture and the impact it has on our state. But when we talk about education, I think we need to talk a little bit differently than sometimes the Republican Party has done. You see, I've had the tremendous benefit of literally going all over the state and having conversations with teachers, as well as parents and kids. I also served on the school board for 10 years in the 1990s and early 2000s. I have met with numerous teachers, and I've got 3 children, all of them products of public schools. So when I think about teachers, I think about how powerfully impactful they can be on our lives. When I think of my own education in Sleepy Eye, there's a handful of teachers I can think of. But I have to tell you, I have no idea what their political persuasion was. Mr. Young taught me calculus and geometry, and I don't know whether he was a Republican or Democrat. And Mrs. Zahn was my Latin teacher, and Mrs. Weisman taught me Spanish, and Miss Dersher taught me English. And I didn't know what their political persuasions were. I never felt, when I was young, that I was being, if you will, sort of indoctrinated into any kind of thought. And I think that probably the essence of education today is similar, but I think we sometimes hear about specific given situations that are problematic. As a physician, I think what I just got done saying about teachers, I think you could say that about physicians. In days gone by, if you went to see a doctor, you probably had no clue about his or her political leanings. Today, it's changed. Physicians are oftentimes very outward about their political persuasion, and sometimes if there's a disconnect between patient and doctor political leanings, it becomes potentially an issue even in the care of the patient, which really grieves me. But I would say this, when I talk to patients in the office, frequently I will ask them about their career, what they're trying to do, and universally, teachers go into teaching because they want to touch kids' lives. They really do. And I think that universally, what I hear from teachers is some qualms about the teachers' union, and yet some appreciation. I ask teachers, what do you get from union membership? And they usually tick off 2 points right away: contract negotiations and protection, along with legal support if they find that they need it. Sometimes there might be a small benefit as well, whether it be disability or something like that. But when you look at physicians, we're no different. What do I want? Well, I hire consultants to do contract negotiations because that's not my forte. And I appreciate that someone has an ability that I don't have in regards to dealing with Blue Cross or Medica or Health Partners or UCare, Humana, these organizations, these insurance companies, United Health Care. So I like it that someone else will do that difficult task of negotiating contracts. But I buy malpractice insurance so that I have legal support if I need it. So you can see there's a real similarity. Many teachers are not comfortable with some of the political persuasions of the teachers' union groups. Some, I'm sure, aren't comfortable, and I probably just don't have those conversations as much. But I would never want someone to make their assessment of me as a family doctor based on what they thought of the American Medical Association. And by the by, I do not belong to the AMA, and I disagree with them frequently. But nevertheless, I would want people to if you will, make an assessment of me based on how I care for them as a doctor. And I think teachers are the same way. Teachers do not want to be lumped in with, quote, the teachers union. They want to be evaluated based on how they touch kids' lives and how they teach. So having said that, I think there's a strong similarity between doctors and teachers, both coveted professions, both powerfully important for the whole world, but certainly America and certainly Minnesota. And I think it's safe to say that when our nation put in place compulsory education system, and our states did, it was not so that we would have a venue or an opportunity for indoctrination. It was for foundational education. We, as a nation, we're stronger if we have a citizenry that can read and write and do some arithmetic. That means everybody can read contracts, sign contracts, potentially start a business, dream dreams, and go make those dreams come true. So I think that that's important as well. I think, frankly, critical race theory has no place in our education system today. I think that the notion of going so sharply against the wise words of Martin Luther King Jr., where he talked about judging people based on the quality of their character and certainly not the color of their skin. To me, those are values that I hold, that I think Martin Luther King Jr. helped me learn and embrace. But let's talk about education from a teacher's perspective. If you just do a Google search, and I've done this before, but I found an article that was particularly compelling for me. This was teacher concerns. So ask teachers, and I did get a chance to do this when I was on the school board, but ask teachers what their concerns are. And here's the list that frequently comes up. Number one, insufficient clerical or administrative support for teachers. Number two, whether or not the system, including parents as well as administrators, are building in the appropriate level of respect for teachers on the part of the students as well as on the part of the parents. Third, that there are too many extra duties and responsibilities being thrown at the teacher. And I think this is really true. I have watched medicine change, and literally we are asking our teachers at times to be psychologists, counselors, medical diagnosticians. Frequently we're asking them to be classroom cops. This really gets in the way of a teacher being able to do what he or she would like to do. Fourth, the teacher wants to make certain that they're doing well when they're observed. I'm no different. If I know someone's watching me or going to grade me, whether it's being a resident when I was a physician in training and having a tape or a video made of my interaction with a patient to see how I did, we all want to do well. And that's a concern for teachers as well. Fifth, help students value learning. So in other words, how can we make it so that the kid comes into the classroom with an appetite to learn? Because without that, the teacher's job is infinitely more difficult. Next, insufficient time for class preparation. This is a big deal. If physicians had to take 3 hours every night to prepare for their clinic schedule the next day, that would be problematic for them. Teachers are no different. They need some class prep time. I sure understand that. And the next one, not enough assistance from specialized teachers. Once again, let's go to medicine. If I didn't have general surgeons and orthopedic surgeons and cardiac surgeons and psychiatrists and endocrinologists and pediatricians and so many other specialists to whom I could tap into to help my patients get the care they need, I would enjoy medicine a lot less. That's one of the challenges for, I think, physicians in greater Minnesota and in rural areas. Hats off to physicians in those areas because they frequently run alone. They don't have someone at their side or someone easily accessible to help them. Well, teachers are no different. They want help from specialized teachers as well. I would venture to say that most primary care physicians, if they're going to be honest, would agree with me when I say I do not feel qualified to make the diagnosis of dyslexia. Most people have heard of dyslexia. It's poorly understood. We frequently are leaning into our teachers to identify those early hints that someone might have problems with dyslexia. What the teachers are saying here is, we can't be all things to all people at all times, and we should understand that. So I have one sentence I want to share with teachers in this regard. I hear you. I do. You've got a tough job. And I think that's why some stats reveal that within the first 5 years of a teacher coming out into their profession, 40% leave their profession. To me, this is a crisis. It's a crisis now, and it's going to get worse. So, teachers, I hear you, and I want to spread that message across the state of Minnesota. There are 3 key stakeholders in our education system. It's the kids, it's the teachers, and it's the parents. And the administrators can do a lot of good work if they recognize that and try to grease the pathway between those 3. I know that in the hospital setting, sometimes the need and demand for documentation has really turned the nursing profession upside down, as well as physicians as well, and the other ancillary folks that are contributing to the care of a patient. But I know that the nursing staff has been just absolutely burdened with the task to document virtually everything. I think teachers are experiencing the same thing. The potential amount of time taken away from their ability to teach kids is really compromised when they have to document. And I know that from my time on the school board, one of the things that really was important to me was that we have to have our administrators in our schools really understand the challenge of classroom management. If Johnny or Janie are extremely distractions in a classroom and a teacher's trying to deal with 20, 25, 30, 35 kids, and they send Johnny or Janie down to the principal's office, we need to make sure that that teacher is not being in any way denigrated or compromised in their personnel file because they're doing that. The administrators need to take on that task. That's part of their job. I also think it's important that we not have teachers involved with Johnny or Janie's daytime medication schedules. This has gotten crazy. Physicians could do a better job of trying to make sure that when we prescribe, we share with parents that, if at all possible, the taking of medicine should be done outside the time boundaries of a classroom or a school. My concerns are that we're causing teachers to have less joy in their profession. We need them to stay in their profession. We need to make a clear distinction between teachers and teachers' unions. What can we do as we go forward? I don't think it's any big secret. Let teachers know we hear you. Let teachers know we want you to look at every student, and rather than draw a line and say we're going to try to get all students above this line, whether we're talking about up to grade reading and writing, arithmetic, what we really want is each child getting a chance to increase their learning. So we're looking not for a standardized line. We're hoping that teachers can give each kid a delta or a change or an increase in their understanding of subject matter, in their performance academically. But we want each kid going from here to here, or from here to here, or from here to here. But we don't want to just draw a line whereby maybe Johnny or Janie have already surpassed that threshold and they're just going to be static. To the administrators, I would say, let's try to do a better job of giving kids a bigger menu to choose from. I think vocational counselors need to do a better job of making sure that kids, particularly in the high school years, recognize that there are a lot of choices. And this antiquated notion that college is the loftiest choice has got to be debunked, because it's not true. Whether a person chooses after their high school years to go in the military, to work for a period of time, to get additional education in the trades or through collegiate programs. If they choose to immediately go abroad and perhaps try to teach English to countries that don't have it, if they go into religious outreach endeavors, whatever. We have been too limited. The bigger menu we provide kids, the better choices they will have and they will make. As a family doctor, one of the epiphany aha moments I have had in my career is to watch how difficult that time frame is for kids from 18 to 21. Oftentimes, they finish up their junior and senior years in high school with their moms and dads, their aunts and uncles, their grandparents, their friends, all saying, oh, you're going to do well. You're going to have a great time when you're out of high school. You're going to get this challenge. You'll be able to do this. The world is your oyster. The sky is the limit. And they go out. And perhaps they go to college and find that they weren't ready for it, or they didn't know where they wanted to go in terms of what direction. So after a year or two, their performance might have been lackluster. They now may have $50,000 to $100,000 of debt, and they're no closer to making those big decisions or getting into a path that will help lead them into full-blown adulthood, where they might think about finding a partner in life and having a family, or choosing an aggressive career path, or traveling, or whatever. These are the things that happen between 18 and 21. It can be a wonderful time of growth and development for a young person, but it can also be a time of incredible mental anxiety, stress, and frequently leading to suicidal ideation. Oftentimes, the thoughts might be, I haven't done very well. I've disappointed the people that matter most to me. My teachers that invested so much in me must be ashamed of me. These are the things that can happen between 18 and 21, particularly. So let's be sensitive to that. Let's make sure that we're not putting too much pressure on people between 18 and 21. I know that I did my struggling. I was in undergraduate at college, but then I went into dental school, and I found I didn't like teeth. So I went to the seminary. That was a wonderful year for me. That was a year I made a couple of big decisions. I asked my girlfriend to marry me, and we've been together 44 years, and I decided to become a family doctor. I had the privilege and chance to make some moves and to have a path that wasn't straight. I was fortunate. Not everybody is that fortunate. So we can do better for our kids, especially when they leave the home at 18, from 18 to 21. Let's give them some props. Let's lift them up. But in terms of the educational program we're going to be coming out in the next couple of weeks, I want you to weigh in. Because when you weigh in and tell Matt Burke and I what you're thinking, it matters. If I start at this point, and after releasing an education program and having conversations with you, I am still at this point, I think that might mean that I'm not listening. So I expect my views to change. I don't expect my values, my core values to change. But I will understand better what the shape of the conversation should be about education as we go through this conversation time. I want to tell you, I am so proud of Matt Burke and his wife, Adriana. They have concerns about education. But 4 years ago, they decided it wouldn't be enough to just talk about it or maybe vent about their concerns. They stepped into the arena. They literally went out and started their own school. They're succeeding. Kids' lives are being touched. Teachers' lives are being touched. That intersection between the three key stakeholders, kids and teachers and parents, is working. They did that. We need to do more of that. I believe student choice will enhance our entire educational system, but I understand clearly that the home district, the home public school, always has the obligation to take Johnny or Janie when maybe no one else is, or because Johnny and Janie are, if you will, boomeranging back into the home school setting. We need to understand that. We need to provide support, funding-wise, as well as other measures of support, so that that home district, that public K through 12 program is there for all people. And understanding that generally we're not able to create an absolute level playing field where we're comparing apples to apples and oranges to oranges. And that's one of the challenges for policymakers. So I hope this conversation has been helpful. This is Scott Jensen. I'm running to be the next governor of Minnesota. I stand with teachers. I stand with kids. I stand with parents. And the fact that some 40% of teachers are leaving their profession within 5 to 7 years after they first get out into the profession concerns me deeply. We have a supply chain fracture in the making, and we're seeing it right now with many teaching positions left unfilled. I hope all of us can think about this. I hope that when we talk to teachers, we elevate them, we appreciate them, and I hope also that we always make that clear distinction between a teacher and the teachers union. Because without question, many teachers unions have become misguided, just as many medical organizations have become misguided as well. Thanks for listening. Have a good day.